Hello, writers, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Today's live episode, Writing for Screens Work Sessions, New Forms. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the Chief Operating Everything here at Writing for Screens, a channel in which I am trying to take I have been trying to take the skills and tools and insights that I had to figure out for myself in a 25-year career writing for TV and movies. On my way out of that business, I am trying to leave behind some of those lessons for anyone who is trying to figure it out for themselves. I have put those lessons into short videos here on this channel so that you can try them out and see if they work for you. Because there is no system, there are no rules, there is no right way to be an artist. You have to figure out for yourself what kind of work you want to do, what kind of path you can take, what are you good at, what are you able to do. Put it all together and figure out your own path. That is every artist's job. I am trying to give you some help along that way of figuring it out for yourself. In doing that, I have created on this channel 3 playlists with 50 lesson videos. Let me show you those 3 playlists. These are Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and The Process, Being a Writer. These 3 playlists, the first 3 as you scroll down on my channel page, have 50 10-minute videos. Each one of those videos has a topic. Each topic is the title and the thumbnail, so you can just scroll around and see instinct, genre, flashbacks, dialogue, character, whatever it is that you want to know about. I have done my best to boil it down to 10 minutes of things for you to try, things for you to think about. Please look at these videos. They are there 24/7 for you for free to see if they help you. Okay, let's move on past that. Oh, also now I do a live stream every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, if I can make it, in which I talk about a different topic every time. Today's topic is going to be new forms, which will include new forms of writing for screens. So that's what we're talking about here. That's what we're doing. It's great to see a bunch of you here. Let me say some quick hellos, and then I will get into today's topic. Hello, Tomorrow Kiddo. Hello to Australia. My book, that we're going to talk about that. It is going really well, actually. Hello, Tom Lewis. Put it all together and figure out your own path. That is every artist's job. I'm trying to give you some help. That's me. Oh, sorry, voice control copied what you were saying. Okay, that is I have to take a screen grab of this because damn, that's funny. All right, good. Hi, Tom. My content is the go-to. Oh, great. That's because we're going to talk about that. Thank you so much. All right. Hello, Acaricio. New forms. Thank you. Read my mind. Thank you, and looking forward to your thoughts. Yes, our thoughts. Let's share thoughts. Hello, Doreen. Okay, let's talk. Here's what's going on. First of all, about one of the things that I want to talk about, this whole episode is going to be me thinking out loud, figuring stuff out for myself about this channel and about my work in the future. Trying to figure out what to do with this channel, with these live streams, with this process of working here, because I at this point, am no longer looking at Writing for Screens as a teaching project. I feel like I'm finishing the book that is going to conclude the screenwriting teaching section of this experiment, and that leaves this thing that I have built as a creative project of sharing my creative work and my creative process and thoughts on it more than teaching you, because I've said everything I have to say about screenwriting. Happy to answer questions, but truthfully, I'm done. I have nothing left to say. But what I am doing is I am creating a book version of these lessons, which is exciting because that is a new form for me, the teaching book. Never done that before. And one of the things I discovered, and this ties into the new forms theme, is what I've been doing the past week is taking the manuscript. I went through the manuscript. I've been I was editing it for a while, and then I started to work on trying to, as I said last week, trying to learn how to export it, because I realized while I had been using Scrivener for 10 years or something, I had never been using it properly, and I had never known that I wasn't using it properly because I had never tried to export anything. Everything was just on my computer. That's what I used it for outlines, for notes, for creative writing of that kind. But I never, when I was doing something with that, it always meant a script. And the script I would export, I would do in Final Draft. So in doing this Scrivener manuscript, because that's what Scrivener is made for, and I got to say, the more I work with Scrivener, the more I do endorse it. It's good. It is a cool kind of software, especially for long format projects. Or complex projects with lots of small, short things. Anyway, I spent a week learning how to properly format and export my manuscript. And when I did that, I saw all sorts of new things. And that's my point here, is that literally just changing the font and the layout on the page, the words were exactly the same. I took the same words and I word processed them until they were in a different font and that the layout was different. I saw things differently. And that's really an important thing to learn, that if you keep grinding on one form, first of all, you get good at it, and that's cool, but you also don't see it. You stop seeing it. I now see my manuscripts as a Scrivener thing on a screen, and I didn't think about them as far as other people's reading. When I translated it into another format, I could edit. Choices became much clearer. The flow, the rhythm, the way that it was going to work in the public eye suddenly became clear to me. Even though I had it planned out, I couldn't feel it. I couldn't see it until I put it in a new form. And that is why I am talking about new forms. And but the other thing is, as you'll see, because this is a new kind of title card, is that this is hopefully going to be a new kind of live stream, because what I'm having done this, I know that my summer is going to be about transforming writing for screens from strictly screenwriting lessons into more of my creative, sharing my creative process and learning together with people. Because I'm going to be going into territory that I'm not expert in. But that's what I want to do. That's what I need to do. And mainly because I never thought that these live streams would become the center of my creative work process, but now they are. I mean, every week I do one of these. People, 600-700 people watch them, at least briefly. 30 or so of you watch live, which I am having fun with. It's great. But the main thing is, more and more I'm getting response from people saying things like me talking through my process or showing you what I'm working on is somehow good content for you. It's helpful for you. It's what you are learning from me and what I do that other people don't seem to do. Partly that's because in order to have a reason to live stream, I did the writing for screens, screenwriting step-by-step project in which I did 200 hours of showing you how I was writing something. That changed everything for me a little bit, because I was like, oh, wow, this sharing the creativity, sharing the work, instead of saying, this is how you do this thing, or this is a cool tip, but to actually say, like, here, I'm going to let you see some of the process and some of the workings. People are saying that that's really helpful. So that's what I want to do more of. But I don't want to do it about scripts, because I'm not writing any more scripts. I am done with scripts. I am trying to explore new forms. Let's do it again. Boom, new forms. So let's talk about what I mean by new forms. For instance, I know that if I wanted to become a better, bigger screenwriting teaching entity, I would do interviews, or even if I was just doing YouTubes about creativity or novel writing, one of the main forms is that people do interviews. That's a really good thing, because whoever I get on, I bring their audience in. And if I get celebrities of any kind, that would even be bigger. And that's how podcasts get big and stuff. I don't want to do interviews. This is about me. This is me sharing my creative process. That is the one thing I do that is unique. And I do think, for me at least, always, it's more motivating, it is more powerful, it is more worthwhile to do a thing because no one else is doing it, but you do it well. That you have a feel for this thing that may not be what everyone else is doing, but that's actually a reason to do it, as opposed to a reason not to do it and to do what everyone else is doing. I have found in the past 5 years that I've been doing this, that sharing my creative process is immensely fun. It is actually a creative act itself. So I've been trying to think about what I do it for and what you get out of it. And people are saying, I'm sure that there's many people who are like, no, I don't want to watch an hour-long live stream video about your creative process. And I respect that. But some people do seem to get a lot out of it. And the main thing is, I was thinking, should I just close this whole thing down, make it an archive, make it the lessons that you can watch, and then start a new thing? Because I want to write novels, and I also want to work in new forms. I want to maybe do audio or turn video into a creative storytelling form. And I have all these unfinished stories that in the one of the grand mistakes I have made in my life is not finishing a lot of stuff that I worked a lot on. And I look back on it, I'm like, damn, nobody can ever see this because it's not finished in its screenplay form or whatever form, novel form. And now I'm thinking maybe I can create a new form. The past 20 years or so, I've been watching technology change. And I always say the same thing. I wish I was younger because I would get into these new art forms. And all of a sudden now, when I'm definitely not younger and when I have a very limited time frame, I'm not going to be able to invest and say, okay, in 20 years, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z, because in 20 years, I'm not. But right now, I have the freedom, because I am retired, to do whatever I want. What have I got to lose? Why not? I've spent my entire career thinking I have to master an art form. I have to get really, really to get it perfect so that I can put it out as a finished work. And the world has changed, and that's no longer really that interesting to most people, because there's this churn of content and there's this churn of media. And the truth is, even for me, I hesitate. Like, I bought Charlie Kaufman's novel, Antkind, which I'm very curious about. It overlaps in many ways with some of the things I want to do in the novel I'm writing. But I'm intimidated to read it. It's an 800-page novel. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm afraid to start it. Just like I'm afraid sometimes to start watching a series, like a 7-season TV series. So I am changing as well, and the world is changing. The art forms are changing, and there's like YouTube itself. And I don't mean making a success out of this. I mean making a creative satisfaction out of it. Substack is happening. There's this form which is YouTube-ish, but it is your own little website place that sends out newsletters, but also does video, it also does audio. And it seems like a place where you could do fiction or serialized storytelling or little bits of storytelling. And that's really cool. Social media, Instagram, TikTok, all these little forms, somebody is going to figure out how to do the Hill Street Blues or the Sopranos of Instagram Reels, or the TikTok version of Brothers Karamazov. There's going to be a creative move into these other forms. And I'm really interested in that. I'm like, how cool, like, what is an ongoing creative release of storytelling like because I know that for me, um, the process of listening to podcasts, or I don't watch that many YouTube videos, but more as I do, I'm thinking, I kind of wish I wasn't just getting content, entertainment, essentially talk shows or interview shows or watching people fall down. But what if I could get a great story in bite-sized pieces that I could eat as many as I wanted to? And some days it'll just be like, oh, I got 10 minutes, I'll do one. And some days it's an hour and I'm going to do 5. I don't know. I'm just saying that this is interesting to me and it's exciting to me. And I want to try and find new forms for my creativity, which I would like to share here because it seems like that's a cool thing to do for people. And I do believe people are not doing it. People are doing it in terms of like, how can you make a lot of money or how can you be a big success? But I'm saying, what about creative satisfaction? What about just doing cool art? What you think is cool art? And like audio. When I was a kid, there was a thing, there were, radio was dead. But there was a collection of old radio comedy shows from England called The Goon Show. Spike Milligan, Peter Sellers, Harry Seacombe did these radio shows that were just insane. They were like the Marx Brothers on steroids for sound. And I read, they came out with a book of their scripts, and so I got to read them, and then I started to listen to them. And it was wild. And there was a radio show called Bob and Ray. Which they did little skits. It was a sketch comedy, but they had running characters, and they broadcast from New York. And I lived in New York, so I could hear them every afternoon. So there was this idea of the possibility of storytelling in audio. And at the time, it was really hard, technologically, to do things like make movies. I've mentioned before, I tried to make silent movies because I had a silent movie camera, like a little home movie camera. In those days, it was Super 8 film, but you couldn't put sound to it. They didn't have sync sound at the time. So for a while, I just tried to learn how to make silent movies, but that was kind of a narrow path to take. And then I started getting into audio, and I was like, why don't I just make radio shows on my cassette recorder? They had sound effects records. My basic point is all of these things are now super, super available. And why not play with it with whatever I've got to offer now? And also comics and graphic novels, visual narratives, interweaving words and pictures. These are things that I really feel are just too exciting to say, I'm too old to try it. I've decided I'm not too old to try it, and this is the place to try it. So that's what I'm going to try and do here. I'm going to quickly take a look at some comments because there's been a lot of them. So let me just check on everybody. Hi Nishaj, hello Aries and Fung and Blaine, how you doing? Okay. Fung says, sorry I haven't been around much, stuck in the unlimited black hole of French New Wave after randomly saw 400 Blows. Can't have enough of those films for some reason. Okay, brief side little tangent here on 400 Blows. For those of you who do not know, 400 Blows was an important early French New Wave film by Francois Truffaut. It was semi-autobiographical about a young boy just becoming a teenager, having problems with his family, having problems with his school, sort of becoming a juvenile delinquent, but at the same time learning who he was in society at the time. It's beautiful, very loose, black and white, low-budget film. What's really fascinating about it, though, aside from the fact that it's really cool in itself, and it's got parts of it that are sort of very, very obvious comedy or sort of bits, but there's also bits that are capturing a looseness of life that's really cool. But what's really even cooler is the young man who played Antoine Doinel, who was the lead character, the 12-year-old or whatever he was at the time. Truffaut later, about, I guess 4 or 5 years later, was invited to do a short film as part of a collection of shorts that was being made. And he decided to take up Antoine, say what happens to him 8 years later from the last story. And he got the actor, and the other actors from the story. And he said, let's just do another short about what Antoine's doing now that he's gotten out of school and he's working and he's living his life in Paris. So there's this little short. And then a few years later from that, he decided to make a new feature about Antoine after he gets out of the army, and he goes to work for a private detective agency. And it's this sort of weird romantic comedy thing, a coming of age story again. And then later he did another film about Antoine years later getting married. And then years later about running into the woman who was in the short. So he made these 5 films with Antoine as the main character over the course of, 30 years, maybe more. Was very, very inspirational to Richard Linklater in making Boyhood. Because what happens is they use the same actors, and they even use clips from the old films as flashbacks and you see these people truly, authentically changing, growing, and the world changing. So there's a complete set of these on the Criterion Collection. It's a set of DVDs or Blu-rays, or on Criterion Collection. It's called Salade d'Amour. Anyway, it's the Antoine Doinel collection, Francois Truffaut, on Criterion, and I highly recommend it. So anyway, Fung, if you don't know about the rest of them, go for the rest of the Antoine Doinel series. It's fabulous. Okay, let's talk comments. Tom Lewis, yes, I export EPUB versions to Apple Books and Kindle every day, which gives me an idea of what the reader will see. Yes, indeed, that's what I'm saying. Is that just like having your manuscript changing into the finished form is a remarkable experience, which I urge you guys to consider in other words, look at your work. It would be like taking a photograph of a painting you had done, and then you look at the photograph of it, and for some reason that changes the way you see it. Okay. Tomorrow, Kiddo, has exciting changes. Definitely going to try to get to more lives. Yay! Happy 6 a.m. I hope you're having your coffee tomorrow, Kiddo. Okay, hi, Michael, and Scrivener is awesome, Tom Lewis asserts. Hello, hey, Next Institute, and Drive-By Uppercut. Okay. Blaine is saying, I would also like to do some live stream my writing process later this year. You have my blessing. Absolutely. Not about permission, just about respect. Yeah, absolutely. The thing I have to tell you is I have no idea who might watch it or who might not. The question is it fun for you? That's so important in doing art where you're not getting paid. Do it because... and this is weird, but I didn't know how much fun I would have sharing creativity. But I got to tell you, it is literally the second most fun creatively to actually just the fact that I like doing the work now that I am older and have learned some process. That's what I'm doing. So yes, Blaine, you have my blessing and my encouragement. The thing to do, I believe, when you're doing creative sharing live streams, do something that it doesn't matter if no one's watching. That's the key. The dance like no one's watching. Do something creative that you would do anyway and that you have fun doing anyway and that you're into, because very likely no one's watching. Very likely no one's going to be watching. Roberta 88 says, why not make your unproduced screenplay into a narrative podcast? That is, in fact, something I am thinking about doing. The question becomes, how far do I want to go into, like, each of these things requires a lot of time. It's simply very, very, all of this is very labor intensive. So while there is actually a theory that would say, take my unfinished stories and turn them into narrative podcasts and truly produce them as narrative podcasts. I don't think I have the patience for that. I'm 67 years old. I don't know how much time I've got. I have this novel to finish, and I have another novel project that I really, really want to do after. And those are full-time jobs themselves. Plus, I have a life. So I think what I'm going to do is create some form of live stream where I don't over-prepare, prepare a little, as I do, and tell the story. Just instead of producing it or scripting it or giving it to actors or editing it, just to say, I think I'm just going to tell you a story. because I got all these great stories and I really like them and I think it's fun to tell them. So I think I'm thinking about creating some form in which I just tell you a story because I have all these stories to tell. So that's what I'm looking at as that. And I hope it may be unwise. This is copyright. This is all copyright. These are my ideas. I have to assume by putting them out, I am not giving them away. I mean, I guess other people could do it, but we'll see. Okay. Akari says, speaking my colors now. Cool. I am both bringing together all I have been and done, but in a new form. Very artisan, creative filming artifact for a much bigger overall project. Akari, you and me both. I think I'm actually going to break out to a larger audience this way, because I think there's a lot of people who, there's people who want to learn professional screenwriting, and that's fine. That is fine, by the way. But I've produced that. Now, let's all explore together this concept that we are absolutely at the end of it's very likely that the American empire is crumbling, that the world disorder is rising, that we are all going to hell, that technology is destroying us, that capitalism clearly is in trouble and possibly is the cause of trouble, and I don't know what would replace it. But with all of that happening, we've got all these cool toys. We've got all this cool stuff going on briefly, and it really could all come down in the next 5 years. But at least at the moment, why don't we have fun? Why don't we have fun making little videos or audios or whatevers and putting them out there? What I have to figure out is what form, I know how to do filmmaking, but I'm trying to get away from the language of filmmaking and into the language of graphics and mainly things I can do by myself, but also things that I like artistically. And let me just do a couple more. Okay. Hi, Steed. Hello. Sorry. Yeah, it's pretty hot here in LA too. Michael says, I've seen your advice segment several times a week. Each question you bring up brings more questions. Yesterday, I answered my own question of my own script, but I realized it was a hole I didn't see. Okay, yes, very briefly, just an important lesson for everybody. If you don't have someone to ask, remember, inside the question you want to ask about your creative work, probably the answer is there. In other words, if you look at your question, you'll see that probably you've kind of answered it. Like if you say, I want to do this, but I can't that. Well, you want to do this. And is that important? That you'll see the answer in the question. Almost always. Okay. Steed says, it's interesting. Radio has had such a different place in the US versus the UK. Been a very, very big part of UK identity for a long time. Yes. We still have a lot of sitcoms and dramas. I'm deaf. Oh, I didn't know you were. So I don't listen though. No. Yes. I do suspect that the audio form is coming back in the podcast, because the thing about radio that was a problem was you had to catch it at the moment. But with podcasts, you catch them when you want. And that's mind-blowing in terms of your creativity, because you can be assured of finding people and they don't have to find you at just that moment. And you don't need a big broadcast entity, because there are entities like podcast releasing systems or YouTube itself or Substack. They're all releasing podcasts now. So you can make your podcast without having to get CBS or BBC to love it or to put money into it, as long as you're willing to put in the effort, and as long as you're willing to live with the fact that most people will never, ever hear of it, you can do it. And that's the magical, special place that for me is the same as, punk bars and off Broadway theaters in New York, when Broadway was considered too stuffy and people wanted to do experimental things and they didn't have the money. Or zines. In the 80s and 90s, I believe, people started taking Xerox machines, which were now prevalent in offices, and saying, we can publish on a Xerox machine if we don't mind hand cutting and hand stapling and making it ourselves and hand selling. You can do what's called a zine, short magazines. Anyway, all of these things are in my mind as far as we are now in a time with more technological tools and better technological distribution than any of these art forms ever had. And it is crazy to cling to the old forms. If we're not going to get paid anyway, we're not going to get to be number one anyway. So don't worry about it. Just what could we do if we weren't trying to get in the major leagues? That's my thinking. Next institute is in Amsterdam. Wow, this is fascinating. I got to get more into where you guys are. So sorry, all of you guys. It was 20 degrees. Okay, for those of us who work on Fahrenheit, 20 degrees is freezing. But I know that it's hot. Okay, new forms. I'm currently writing a 13-episode series, but I've been away from TV too long and know the chance of getting back in. We'll probably adapt a graphic novel or radio play via podcast. Steed, you and me, I am totally getting it. Totally getting it. Hi, Burgundy. There are short films on YouTube, but you really have to know of them. Exactly right. Back in the early 2010s, there were several creative animated shows that became iconic. We've lost that format now. But have we? What if, and this is just, I don't know the answer, but the thing is, yes, YouTube, there's literally, I believe it's 500 hours, like a minute are being uploaded to YouTube. There's too much stuff out there. And most of it, you're not going to want to watch. Let's just face it. But maybe coordinating social media and Substack and other forms to let people know about these things or to access it through different ways. Maybe there's a way to build a little audience. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay. And not a problem, Steed. The UK has turned into an armpit, US and frankly, just about everywhere else too. So not a problem. I don't mind a little touch of social realism. Okay. Yes. Oh, Tomorrow Kiddo is reminding me the 5 films of Antoine Doinel story are like the 7 Up series. 7 Up series was this thing, but it was a documentary series. And every 7 years, since these kids were 7 years old, I believe, 14, 21, 28. Anyway, the point is Michael Apted, great documentary filmmaker, good regular filmmaker, did this series of documentaries following this group of kids for their entire lives. Like, wow, how cool is that? Anyway, yes. Good. Thank you, Watson. French New Wave is irresistible to some. I understand why people could feel a little like it's lost. Fung has a stupid idea of a YouTube channel. I don't think it's stupid. Audio notes of a cinephile apprentice. Tagline: still learning about the movies. Where does the stupid come in? I think that's a great idea. How many people will watch it? I don't know. It'll depend. You have to get lucky with the algorithm. That is the only reason you guys are watching me now is because I got lucky with the algorithm in that I had this one hit video and by the way, now the algorithm is not steering anyone to me. I'm going to try and stir that up. But yeah, you got to get lucky with the algorithm or you have to be willing to be small. And that's okay. Steed says, that sounds fun, Fung. And I agree, Fung, do it. Have some fun. Ornithological Mansion. That's a fascinating name. How do you go back to having fun doing it? That is a great question. Let's talk about that for a second. Oh, I'm clearly not going to get to all my points today. How do you get to the fun? You have to think about, for you, what is fun? And partly, like for me, I'm keeping an eye on things as they come out, like video games. I wish I could understand more about creating video games because it's a cool form. It's too technologically complex for me, but audio, like I said, it was something I liked when I was a kid. What is it that you like to do or enjoy doing now in this world? What can you do creatively with it? The other thing I would say about having fun doing it, the main thing I would say is, forget money. If you're trying to do it for money, you're going to be skewing towards the things, the money system right now is what is popular is what gets popular. And that's constantly shifting because of the algorithmic churn. But the point is, you cannot guess what is going to be popular. You really can't. And even the tech companies know that. That's why they're constantly shifting and changing and also messing with our algorithms so that there's things that they're just squashing. The only thing you can do is forget about the conventions of success and think about creative success, creative satisfaction. In other words, what would you do if no one was going to watch it? What would you do anyway, just for fun, for the 4 people who might stumble into it? And if you do that, and those 4 people do stumble into it, I guarantee you that will be fun. That's the point. I've told stories before. I made a whole movie, spent 2 years, tens of thousands of dollars, made a movie that was shown 4 or 5 times. I went to 3 screenings at 3 film festivals. Each one had about 20 people in the audience. So we're talking about 60 people for a feature film that took 2 years of my life. 60 people saw it. I got to say, it was fun. and it's a failure in so many creative ways, but wow, it's fun. Okay. Alan M. Hi, Dave. Lucky catch from South Africa. Fell in love with you from your interviews and film. Oh, cool. Glenn. My name's Glenn. Film courage. I'm trying to get the 6 questions ingrained in my process. Thank you, Alan. That is so cool. I am so glad to hear that. I do hope that you check out the rest of my, this is my main page. Those first 3 playlists, that's where everything I got. And the main thing about getting something into your process is give it time. Everything that we do creatively, you have to do over and over to have it become part of your process. And that's actually one of the other things I want to talk about here. Okay. All right, let me just talk. Okay, so about myself, about one of the things that makes things fun, one of the things that you want to pursue is if you stop thinking, what are people telling you is going to work? Or what are people telling you is popular or successful or good? And you think, what forms are you actually consuming? Because when I was young, there was not much great television. There was a lot of movies, especially once VHS came out and you could access more movies, which was right when I was in college. Books. I loved books. I loved theater. I loved drawing and painting. I loved whatever creative thing I could do. I stopped reading novels for fun maybe 10 years ago, mostly, because I was trying to focus so hard on screenwriting, and I said the novels are pulling me away from the language of film. So so right now I'm partly getting back into books. But truthfully, like I said, I kind of want the equivalent of a good bingeable series like Better Call Saul or something like that. I want that in a form I can grab whenever I want. I want a novel in bite-sized pieces that I can keep watching or reading, but I can also not feel locked into an enormous pile. That's what I want. So that's what I should do. I also want it to be available to me through my devices. I also would love something that's sort of mixed media, that was both graphic or visual, but also maybe audio, but also narrative and verbal. And I don't know what that is yet. Like I said, I'm trying to learn and experiment. One of the things I want to talk about is there's this guy named Chris Ware, W-A-R-E, Chris Ware. And he'd done a lot of incredible experimental work, but he did this thing called Building Stories. And it's essentially a box of graphic novels. It's this gigantic box called Building Stories. So let me see. Yeah. Building Stories. Whoop, there we go. And what it has is 14 smaller volumes within, and each volume is different. For instance, this one is a hardcover book, but this one is just a long strip, just like that. This one is like the strip, but it's a book. And I believe this is no words at all. It's just images. It is phenomenal about this woman and her child, about the relationship of this woman and her daughter from pregnancy through to the girl becoming a teenager. Um, and you see the changing relationships and the changing experiences. It's just brilliant. But then there's this one, which is sort of like a cardboard bound book, which is all about one day in this woman's life, but it's narrated by the building that she lives in. Um, and it's narrated partly by this building, talking about all the different people who have lived inside it because it's been around for 100 years. Um, anyway, then there's one. This little book is about a bee, a bumblebee. Branford Bee, his name is, and you can see him. And it's about his life in terms of bee psychology, because he flies into the building and gets trapped in the building. The windows close. He climbs in, and then the woman in the other stories lets him out. It's the point is that there's these 14 different forms, 14 entirely different creative. Like this one is sort of in a newspaper form, about this woman's relationships. Some things are about her understanding of the other people who live in her building, this brownstone building in Chicago. This is just, it's freaking amazing, and it's questioning the concept of storytelling form and taking all these different ways that a comic could become a story, or a set of stories that are all taking different angles on this woman and this building and her life and all the people around her. And it's just amazing. Anyway, my point is, why aren't I thinking about that? Why aren't I saying, what can we do with the tools we've got? And only the ones I can learn. I'm sort of a drag that I learned filmmaking for 30 years, and now I want to try and learn other things. But at the same time, I really do, and I want to learn maybe how to do some form of graphic art that I work in. There's a writer named Brian Selznick. He did a book called The Invention of Hugo Cabret. Which has won a lot of awards, made into a movie by Martin Scorsese. It is two kinds of storytelling. One is graphic drawings, but then every once in a while those will stop and there'll be narrative, fiction. And then parts of the story are told in drawings, in sequences of drawings, and then parts are told in so that's exactly the kind of thing I can't draw that well, but I don't know, maybe I can play with something. Anyway, what I'm thinking about is essentially trying to look at writing. I almost dropped writing for screens. I was almost like, I need to establish a new way of thinking about what I'm doing. And then I realized writing for screens is exactly what I'm doing. Like, I'm not screenwriting, but I'm writing for screens, for us right here. And that therefore, writing for screens, maybe with a logo change, a little different font or something, could speak for what I'm doing. And what I'm thinking about is that, what if writing for screens is like a little shop I opened, like a little candy store? Okay, I opened a candy store 5 years ago, and people like the candy, and I got a good crowd of regulars for candy, screenwriting. But I also want to have a bookstore, and I also kind of want to have a cafe, and maybe a little theater where they put on plays. And I'm like, wait a second, why open a new building for each of those? What if I just put all of those into my candy store? What if I just say, okay, we're going to move the candy over and we're going to have a second section, which is books. And in that section, maybe you sit and read, and there's a cafe too. And at night we do this, I've got a small amount of foot traffic here coming into my store. I don't want to open another store. I think I'm just going to try and figure out a way to make the public know that this store now does other things. So that's what I'm kind of thinking, trying to figure out. I think that all my life I have tried to work in terms of what could I do. Like I did silent films for a while. I got frustrated by that because I like dialogue. And so I started working in theater. And the reason I started working in theater, aside from I grew up in New York, there was theater around me, but also school plays. You could do plays. It's like, whoa, okay. And I was like, I saw the older kids doing plays, and I was like, okay, I'm going to write plays. I like watching plays. I like movies that are kind of like plays. I think I'll just, and I worked in high school theater, and I designed some sets, and I wrote some plays, and they did the plays I wrote. And then when I went to college, I really focused on theater because there was no filmmaking at the time. You couldn't make a film in school. So I ended up doing theater for like 6-8 years. And I love theater, but then I had to set it aside and focused on screenwriting for a while. I'm just saying there's a lot of things going on and it's possible. And I'm going to go back to your comments because I've been going on, but I just want to talk about this concept of new forms. That's really what it is. And trying to make this into a new form and sharing that all with you. Okay. Alan says, have you seen any role play podcasts? Maybe it's yes. I have seen, first of all, I know people and I tinkered with, I did actually write an audio novel for the TV series Homeland. I was hired by audible.com to write a half-hour narrated story about one of the main characters in the TV series Homeland. If you ever want to hear it, by the way, it's great. It's called Phantom Pain. Let me just tell you about that. Hold on. Okay. It's called Phantom Pain. It's on audible.com. Let's see if I can, there we go. Boom. Okay, whatever. Phantom Pain. If you go on Amazon has this. It's a half-hour story I wrote about the one of the characters in the TV series Homeland. There's a section of the Homeland series where he vanishes. Damian Lewis was the actor who played the character. And for a section of the story, we don't know where he is. And then he ends up in South America. And they said to me, can you write the story of his life in that missing piece? So I got to write. I had to learn how to think in terms of audio storytelling, plus the radio plays it. So anyway, podcast audio storytelling. Robert Freeman says, like the old times when people pay for a storyteller, just telling a story at the side of the street. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And what's cool is we now have this weird, the good thing about the technology we have, and there's a lot of bad things going on about the technology that I am speaking to you on. But the good thing is my audience isn't just the people who walk by my store. It's anybody in the whole world who happens to walk by my if I can get the algorithm to show them, or if I can in some way identify myself to them, I can reach you in Amsterdam and England and Australia and all these places that you guys are, which I'm so excited to do. Burgundy says, aren't we all his writing team? I like to think of us as each other's writing teams. I'm hoping to help you with your writing. And I hope, yes, I am thrilled to share with the gang and play. Let's play. The world is an absolute disaster. The only thing that keeps me going is art and my dog. Fair enough. I think we all can agree on that. We need to find the things that keep us going when the world is hard. Imogen says, I am working with my teacher on a script that is collaborative, and while I'm enjoying this learning process, it feels constricting. It makes novel writing 100% more appealing. Yes, welcome to my life. Imogen, for 25 years or more, screenwriting is extremely collaborative, and it took me all that time to begin to learn to enjoy collaborating. It's hard for me, but it's also cool. So I'm glad you're doing it. You do learn. You learn a lot by opening up and trying things and doing stuff outside of your comfort zone. What about using animation, stop motion? The only problem is how incredibly labor intensive that is. The question, and I'm going to put this off for another time, but of course the big question is, would I use AI? Because I am a big proponent of not using AI for your writing, but what if I could use AI to animate my stuff and create characters? But what I'm doing then is putting a bunch of animators out of jobs, and I'm not sure that that's morally something I can live with. So I don't know. Although somebody has pointed out, if you were never going to hire them in the first place, are you putting them out of a job? I don't know. That's interesting. That's a whole separate question. We'll save that for another episode. Tomorrow, I am also considering publishing on Webtoons. Interesting. I have a mate who can draw well, considering teaming up with her and publishing a 13-episode TV on apps called like Webtoons. That's what I'm talking about. There's so many places now, and too many, in fact, because it's hard to find an audience. But within those, it used to be that you were going to make your own site and draw the business to your site as if it was a store. What I'm realizing at the moment, it is better to go to the big department store and have a department, to go to Substack or Webtoons or Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, YouTube, and set up shop there, because there's a lot of foot traffic. There's a lot of people going past your store. And so therefore, they might drop in and have a coffee and look at your book. So that's the way I'm conceiving of it. Because for a while I was like, oh, I should create a website which people come to. That's so much work. And there's no point, because they're going to have less people passing by. So, okay. Anshul is, my new form is I will make comic books of my film script. Cool. Visually and with limited dialogue, sell it as feature films and explore other means. Yes, Anshul, you and me both. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not sure about doing it as animated films or feature films, but I'm interested in exploring. My main, and this is just me, my main concern is learning to do stuff that I can do by myself right now. I actually have a slogan about this. Yeah, here it is. Do what you can as who you are with what you have right now. I'm gonna say that again. Do what you can as who you are with what you have right now. That's my mantra. That's my plan. That's my goal. For me personally, I have to learn to stop thinking that I have to master a form before I can do it. All the advice I've seen about, especially about new technologies, about podcasts, about all this, is you can't wait till you're ready. And in fact, with this, I was waiting till I was ready with the YouTube channel, and the pandemic hit, and I thought, I can't wait anymore. People are out there. The audience is here. I need to just push my work out there, even though I don't feel ready. And I learned as I went, I need to do that with everything now. Partly because, like I said, I'm old. I don't have 20 years. I got to do it now. I got to have fun and do what I can do without asking anybody's permission or getting any kind of support. Just what can I do? For me, the other things that I'm working on is organizing my lists. I'm a big believer in lists, in making checklists, things to do lists, organizing stuff into piles that you can use. My problem is I put too much in the pile and then I never look at it. So I need to organize my things to do list into a list of things that I actually can do and do it. And so I told you guys this the other day, I think, but this is a sign I made for myself, which is simply simplify, clean up and clean out. In my case, my list of things to do, but also my office and my computer hard drive. Leave only a doable set of tasks in front of you. In other words, make a list of things to do that is not so big or not so far-reaching that you don't use it. And everything else put aside or throw away and stop worrying about. And for me, all of this is going to also depend on creating the format. Just like these live streams. I created these live streams because YouTube said, we need you to do live streams. That was at the time, 5 years ago, YouTube was pushing long form live streams. So I started doing these live streams, sharing my writing because it was something I could do even if no one was watching, if there were no questions. And once I had the form, now I've expanded it out to behind the script and ask me anything and all these other things, because I figured out this live stream form, this format, this form to work in. And I'm trying to learn a bit more about things like TikTok and Substack and Instagram Reels, or I don't even know what, Pinterest, that's another one, to find a way to be creative in a form. Because once you have the form, you start to work within it. And if you have a form that allows you to get right to the audience, however small, and create an archive of your work, an ongoing pile, that's the best anyone can do as far as I can tell about art. That's it. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, so some of you guys are talking to each other, and I'm going to skip that because we've got so many comments. But wow, you guys are great. I am just loving these comments. It wasn't an algorithm. Pretty sure I found you via Film Courage. But Film Courage, my video on Film Courage went big because of an algorithmic freakout. For some reason, that one video I did, which now has 4.5 million views, it just blew up. It was one of like 20 that I did with them. Like I sat with them for 2.5 hours and they talked to me and I talked and I said the same things I'm saying now, frankly. And they cut it up into little 10-minute sections and they released all of them. And this one blew up. And it was an algorithm freakout. No one knows why. We have no idea. I mean, I'm not going to say that what I do has no quality. I think it does. But let's put it this way. There's hundreds of other videos I've done that do not have 4 million views. So something happened where if something for some reason, I think a lot of it was the title and maybe it was just a weird weekend or something. I don't know. But something allowed that to get a little bit of attention. And the algorithm saw that it had attention and pumped it up. It said, people like this. We feed them what they like. We'll feed them more of this. Well, that meant more people saw it, so it snowballed. This is, by the way, horrible for culture. It is a bad thing. But I did get lucky about the algorithm, and that's why people know me from Film Courage, because there's hundreds of people on Film Courage. And many of them have a lot of good stuff to say. For some reason, mine went to the top. It is not because it is better. I mean, I think it's good, but it's not because it's special. It's really not. It's just, let's put it this way. I don't have 4 million views of my saying the same exact information on my shows. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Hi, I hate Jackie Chan. There's a great short film YouTube channel, Omeletto, just discovered. Thank you, Next Institute. Tomorrow Kiddo says, being as childlike as possible kickstarts my fun. So, art making for the sake of it, crawling around the ground, pretending it's yoga. Exactly. Yes. No, have fun. For me, yeah, drawing. I'm a visual art person. I love music, but I can't do it, but I like to listen to it. But anyway, yeah, there's certain things where I'm finding myself theater, graphics. I can't, to tell you the truth, I have a hard time reading graphic novels because my brain isn't attuned to it. I got one. This one here. It's called A.D. New Orleans After the Deluge by Josh Neufeld. I bought this many years ago because I was interested in Katrina and I was interested in graphic novels, and this was graphic novel reporting. It was nonfiction graphic novel, and I thought that's interesting. I read it. I didn't get it. I didn't like it. I did it. I actually donated it. I got rid of the book. 10 years, I don't know how many years later, I was at a graphic novel store and I saw a copy on the discount used rack. So I bought it again and I read it again a week or so ago, and I loved it. So for me, learning the language of new forms means repeatedly experiencing it. And the more I do that, the more I experience making things, and the more I experience consuming them, the more I get comfortable with the form. And it really comes down again to create that form that you can work in, or explore that form that you like reading. Okay. So Imogen and Steed and Burgundy are all talking. Okay, cool. Okay. Germany Football Rock says, I would like to talk about how my dementia, it's destroying my life. That would be fun for the audience. First of all, I'm not sure how much you're saying that for real, but if so, first of all, I'm so sorry. Second of all, it might actually help people. The fact is, a lot of people are dealing with this. In my life, I know people, I've got things going on with people. And the truth is, you might want to share that as best you can. It might be fun for the audience. I was just listening to a podcast about dementia, and I got to say, so Germany Rocks, if you're not just making fun of yourself, but you're talking about a real thing, then I hope you do explore it while you can, as you can. Cool. Please like the video, because we all love Glenn. Thank you. Sure. Okay. Steed says, I'm assuming no one will ever see or experience my show. I am writing a show I want to see on TV, whether I turn it into a webcomic, graphic novel, radio play, or it just sits. I want this story told. That's all we can do. That is the answer. And I also believe the more that you authentically put stuff out there, the more you might find your small audience. And that's good. That should be good enough. That should be all we get. Honestly, not that many people were going to the Globe Theater. It's not that big a place. Shakespeare lived on. That's lovely. I was talking about Edna Ferber, bestsellers who are now completely forgotten, less than 100 years after their bestsellerdom. Okay. How crazy. Tarantino also moved online to Patreon. Yeah, but I got to say, Quentin does not need money, so I'm a little surprised that he's doing that. But I do think that it is a good idea. Like the creative side of that is good, while the idea that Quentin Tarantino would ask his audience for money. Although I guess there is a cool concept of saying, I'm going to go direct to the audience. I'm going to ask them to pay their ticket price or the copy of the book price directly to me. Cool. Yeah. Then I'm with you, Mr. Tarantino. I do not know him. Okay. Claymation, Morph. Love visual comedy and stories, as I'm a child of a deaf adult auntie. Oh, love visual comedy storytelling with her too. That's great. That is so cool. Yes, new forms, or not even new forms. These are not new forms, but we've got new digital resources to create and to distribute, and that's key. Okay, I'm gonna say no more comments, because I'm not even gonna get to all of these. The psychedelic infiltrated every art form. That's true, and yes, things changed at that moment, which was when I was growing up. Glenn's Fan Club asks, can you produce and finance your sitcom script all by yourself and put it here on your YouTube channel? Not everyone wants to do the business, the logistics. That's the thing. It is a separate job to produce. And that includes producing a live stream or producing a webcomic. Chris Ware, who I was talking about before, he pointed out it takes him years to make these things. They're very, very hard to make. They take a lot of effort. So the answer is sometimes you need to find the creative comfort spot where you can work without the effort of producing and distributing wearing you down. That's the balance. And Burgundy also says, a story about dementia for Germany Football Rocks can be very cathartic, and people may recognize themselves in your story. Burgundy, you said a mouthful, that's for sure. I think you should do it. Me too. Burgundy said what I was saying, just better. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Steed is talking to Michael about the psychedelic era and how sometimes you create something innovative and on the fringes it becomes mainstream, capitalism, franchising the disenfranchised. It's so true. But, you know, I don't personally think any one of us is going to change the system or the world. I do not believe that means we should give up, but I do believe it means work within your possibilities. That's the DIY, ultra low budget, fringe aesthetic. That's the point. Work within your abilities. And right now, my point is there's a lot of abilities. These companies are giving us these things because they want our data. Maybe it's a worthwhile trade. I don't know. For Robert, his series would be, I am Robert, a grumpy wannabe screenwriter. These are my failed screenplay. No agents replied to my inquiries again. Hooray. Yeah. Like I said, you might want to go more with this is my story, and it's cool because it's about a pilot who ends up underwater and meets a creature. I don't know, whatever. Have fun. Yes, the books you've shown us are quite cool. More to think about. Indeed. Seven Psychopaths is basically that story, but with more crime. Yeah. Seven Psychopaths is a movie written by the guy who did Banshees of Inisherin. It was great. Martin McDonagh. Seven Psychopaths is a little weird genre experiment on his part, but it's very funny and interesting with an adorable Shih Tzu. Yes. Okay. No more comments, no more questions. Ta for your inspired energy and that 14 form creation. My artifact is a gnosis bubble expressed in multi-mixed media too. Let's do it. Synchronicity Central. Yes, I agree. This is exciting because I was a little worried that people were going to be like, oh, don't change what you're doing, but we're having fun. This is exciting. Maybe you should change to writing for screen. Yes, exactly. No, that's what I'm going to do. My intro is going to stop being about screenwriting, and it is just writing for screens, creating for screens of all kinds. That's what we're doing. Why not a TikTok channel? Indeed, why not? I tried to learn a bit about TikTok, and then there was this kerfuffle about whether or not they were going to pull it from America, so I held off, but I am trying to learn about TikTok. Yes, absolutely. Steed says, tomorrow, kiddo, Lumo TV is a deaf organization that makes films about deaf and coda. UK-based, but worth keeping an eye. They have a website on YouTube. Oh, thank you, Steed. They make mini films and are looking for TV shows and film scripts. That is ultra cool. Thank you for talking about that. All right. Staying creatively honest, Alan says, and uncompromising, so inspirational, and especially now we really don't need to be the top 1%, just the love of the process and the virtue of making something to make something. Alan, you totally got exactly what I'm trying to say. Thank you. All right. Sanchez Pablo says, maybe something like the Oscar-winning film Flow, draw your own story and put it on a screen. Yes, that is. I have to take some time to consider how much I want to engage with that particular technology. Simply because I have a lot of problems with it, and I also just creatively I don't know if I trust it. I don't know. Like I've been here, I haven't tried it much. I really don't know that much about it, so I don't know how much you can. But I would want to like tweak things and I may just learn like Adobe Illustrator. I may just try and learn some software that I can work with. How about like talking head style songs? Turn your your story into eccentric songs. I would, because for like in my theater era, I worked on a lot of musicals. I loved musical theater. So there's a part of me that is not averse to that idea. I don't know if I'll go that far because music is a whole other thing to learn. Steed says, yeah, I just want to write the story I see in my head. If someone finds it, great. If not, hopefully it will get my noisy and very troublesome characters out of my head. Yes. Oh, Tom Lewis liked Homeland. That's great. Yeah, the Berlin season was cool in Homeland. One question. Can I write a Mission Impossible sequel as my spec script? No. I have a cool idea how to write Mission Impossible 9. No, do not write a sequel to an existing, unless you're writing fan fiction and you're just doing it because you'll have fun doing it and you want to put it on a fan fiction site. But this is important. Do not write a show script, a sample script based on another person's IP, another person's created work, copyrighted work. It's a dead end. And there was a while there in professional TV writing where that was suggested. That is over. People want to see what you would do. So take your Mission Impossible 9 and see if you can find a way to make it whatever thing you would do. Cool Heist 9, Cool Heist number 1. Make it yours and write that version of it. Create your own characters and do whatever creative things you're doing with the story for your own characters. Do not work, and there are some people here who, Maria had worked on a Star Wars project in collaboration with Star Wars fan fiction, but overall I would say do not work with existing copyrighted material. Do not adapt someone else's work. Do not translate it. Do not continue it on as, if you want to do fan fiction, that's a separate thing. Understand what fan fiction is and do that, and that's okay. I personally would not do fan fiction. I would rather make my own stuff up, but that's just me. Okay. I gotta go soon. Okay. How dare you skip my nice shirt reaction? I got a lot of comments here, but I appreciate it. Thank you. It is a nice shirt. Right. AI is a slave labor to load data. And yeah, I am not okay with AI. Either am I. That's why I'm hesitant. Okay. If you use AI in any aspect, it will blanket everything else with the assumption AI is used. Yes, I agree. Yeah, that's what I was saying, was that the technological temptation is not worth the wrong that it would be. Okay. Why not open a physical cafe to have real people physically drop in? If I had a ton of money, I would do that. And that would be really cool. But like I said, I'm trying to do what I can do myself. And that would be more physical effort and physical money than I can actually do. So I'm trying to keep to what I can do right here at my computer, on this screen, on this camera, with this software. I might learn some new software, but basically trying to work within my abilities. As Steed says, physical cafes are very hard to keep in business. Yeah, you'd have to assume that you were just going to throw money at it. But the main thing is it requires physical effort and presence. And I just don't know that I have that. Okay. What about a one-man show in your room there, a one-man sitcom? Yeah, that is not impossible. But like I said, what I want to work with is all the stories I've already written that no one's ever seen. Okay, sorry, I'm going to have to skip some of your comments, Anshul. I think gimmick for a cafe would be writing with Glenn. Yes, that is true, and I may try the online version of that. I don't know. How about teaching writing screenplay in OnlyFans? That's fascinating. I had not thought of that. I have to research that. I think I'm going to stick to less revealing. But you know what? I don't know much about OnlyFans, so I don't want to say. Okay. Thank you. Tom Lewis says he knows why my video blew up, because you proved how good you were at writing advice. Thank you so much. I think the reason people stick with me is because how good I am. The reason people found me is partly just algorithmic chance. Okay, so your ideas, Alan says, your ideas for creating's sake and using what you have sparked memories of scapebooking, cutting up cutting up magazines and making stories because I couldn't write and draw. But yeah, scrapbooking, that's it. Cool. Yeah, Austin Kleon. I keep talking about Austin Kleon. He does that. Okay. um, yes, yes, Anshul. I definitely. What if I wear a bad shirt sometime, Anshul? What are you gonna do? All right, all right. Gotta go. Gotta go. Gotta go. This is great. I really, really hope you guys come back for another, and we'll keep doing this and keep talking. In the meantime, go write something.